Hello everyone. This month, in December 2023, I completed my very first trek and it was to the Everest Base Camp. I wanted to share my experience with you, and so here I have with me dear Flora, who asks me a few questions, but more so, patiently listens in about my journey. I hope you find something of value from my experience, and so here it goes.
Hi, Meeta. How are you doing?
Awesome, Flora.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm just like, let's talk about your year today and how you've ended it on such a high note. And since, you've done something that a lot of people just think about doing and you've gone all the way there. And we really wanted to know how it felt, how it started. Can you talk to us where it started, this idea, and how you decided to take it forward?
So yes, absolutely excited to talk to you, Flora, about this. Uh, you know, if I really think about it, how did it begin? I really don't know. So it was somewhere in the back of my mind that I can't do something like this. Okay, so it was like something which I had said that, oh, my knees are weak, I'm getting older, this is not my time to do all these kind of things. And yet there was probably a yearning back somewhere which needed some validation, but there was no validation which was coming from anybody. My husband went on a trek last year, and he went to the Annapurna circuit, which is like a strenuous trek, and that was his first trek last year, and he got really uh, you know if I can say, he got addicted to it. And
Right.
he said that I'm going to be going on a trek every year, and he was 100% sure that he wants to go to Everest Base Camp this year. So that's how it started, where he said, I'm going to EBC. And he found a bunch of friends who were willing to go with him, some of them were in the last trek with him in the Annapurna circuit too. So he was like comfortable, and he said that I'm going for this trek. And he just one day vaguely asked me, said, would you want to go? So I said, but you've never told me that, Meeta, you can go too. I mean, and I've never, I mean, maybe I can. I said, I don't know whether I can do it. Like I said, I don't know whether I have weak knees. I don't know whether coming downhill is always something which bothers my knees. So I don't know whether I can do it, but yeah, maybe I can. So he said, I'm sure you can, Meeta. So that was his like very, matter of fact statement that I'm sure you can. Why don't you go for it? So he said, this was about 2 months before. And he said that let's start training. I mean, we were anyway, gymming, and we had a personal trainer who has been with us for the past 2 years. So we have been, physically fit, and we've been physically active. But then obviously EBC required a different set of skills, especially for my legs. It needed some more strengthening. So I went to the trainer and I said, listen, I'm planning to go to EBC, and I want some training. So he said that, listen, your training and your husband's training has to be different, because he can manage, I mean, he is more physically fit and he needs a different kind of training. But for you, you will have to strengthen your leg muscles. So
Right.
so we kind of, before that we were doing a couple training where we both were training together, but then we split our training for the 2 months, and dedicatedly 3 times a week I was training with him, where he made me strengthen my leg muscles. So he gave me techniques of how to, go downhill, go uphill, and he really strengthened my leg muscles. And then I took a short trek. There's this in UAE, there's this place called Jabal Jaz, which is supposed to be the only so-called mountain or whatever hill in this area. And my husband was like, okay, let's see if you can do this. If you can do this, then I think you should be fine. So I said, okay, let's go. So one of the weekends, about a month before the trek, we went on to this Jabal Jaz mountain. And it was like a 3-hour trek. We went up and we came down, and it was very, very seamless for me. I mean, you won't believe how seamless, Flora, it was, that I went up and he was like, are you tired? You want to sit in the middle? And I said, no, I'm feeling absolutely fine. And I went uphill and I came downhill. And when I was coming downhill, you won't believe, there were these so many young people, like in their 20s, in their 30s, who are panting when they were going up. Literally
Right.
panting and saying that, listen, I'm so tired and I want to sit. And I'm like, oh, this is how it feels. Like, I'm doing
You
totally
didn't
fine.
feel
I
that,
didn't
right?
feel any,
Right.
there was no, panting or anything like loss of breath or anything that I need to sit, I need to relax, nothing. So when I came down, I came and told my trainer, listen, I'm seeing myself to be pretty okay.
Right.
Even downhill wasn't an issue because I had this stick and I said, this stick really supports and helps me. And I think I was doing fine and I think I'm ready for the trek. And he was like, yeah, I think so too. I think you're ready for the trek. So I said, okay,
Right.
fair enough. And I didn't give it much thought, a little bit more background. So my sister, she's 3 years younger to me. She
Okay.
did Everest Base Camp about 4-5 years back. And she had also never been on a trek, a real trek before. She'd gone on these short treks, but she went to EBC. And I was like, listen, she could do it. She didn't have any major training and she could do it. So I'm sure it's not that tough, right? So, I'm sure something can be done about it. So that's where it started. And then, of course, when my husband said all this, and then I was like, yeah, now I seem to be ready for something like that. And so, people were telling me, do some research, find out more. And I said, I don't wish to do any research. I shall go with the flow. I shall straight away land there and see how it works for me. So, unlike most people, a little bit of research I did in terms of, more because it was winters. I was very scared that we're going in the peak of winters, Flora. I must tell you this, that we mostly people go to Everest Base Camp either in May, June,
Right.
April, May, June, or they go in September, October. And we had decided to go to Everest Base Camp on the 29th of November till 12th of December, which is the peak winter. And it's the last trek which happens. After 12th December, they close the treks. Okay, because
Right.
because the weather conditions really become harsh. And so we were there on the last leg of when the season was on for the trek. And so I was more worried now about whether I can manage the cold because I hate cold weather. Okay. I detest cold weather. I'm like a warm weather person. I can handle warm weather, but I can't handle cold weather. And you won't believe, as a kid, I've always had a splitting migraine every time I go to a cold place. And I'm like sitting in the hotel while everybody else is roaming around because I am so susceptible to a migraine with a cold. And my biggest fear was I
Right.
should
How
not
will you
be getting
sustain
stuck,
it?
right? And you know what? You're going with a group. And
Right.
when you're going with a group, the whole idea is that you cannot get anybody, the whole group gets affected.
Yeah,
If
right, right.
something happens to
They'll
you,
have to wait for you, which
right?
slows them down.
Because
Right,
it
right.
affects everyone. And I was like, I hope I don't, I can manage the cold. So I took extra stuff. I went and I came to Decathlon, one of these, just before coming for the trek, I had gone to India and I went to Decathlon and I literally went and bought everything under the sun. Invested in very good quality shoes and I bought all these merino wool sweaters and jackets and hoodies and a monkey cap and a normal cap and gloves and this and that. So I bought everything under the sun and I said, listen, that's something I just have to protect myself against. So that's all that I did. And then, lo and behold, I was ready for the trek. So
Let's just go.
began. Long
Right.
answer to your short question.
No, I think because we also wonder, right? A trek like that, it makes you wonder that, oh, I will have to be physically prepared for it. I'll be prepared for it for a long time. I'll have to make sure that my nutrition and even the breathing gets harder, I'm guessing. So there's so much that it's so daunting, the prep even before going or deciding to actually go and try it. But I think that was amazing. And
I think
it sounds more encouraging when you're like, I just did whatever I had to do and then I didn't think so much about it. I just went and I did it.
yeah,
And in peak winter.
yeah.
Crazy.
So what you
Okay.
said is right, that I didn't think too much. One of the things which I didn't do was overthink. I didn't
Right.
build it into my head that, oh, can I, will I, would I be able to, or do a lot of research to find out all the bad things about it. Because when you do research, you listen, a whole lot of people will talk a lot of stuff which will be pretty discouraging, that how the weather conditions can be bad and how this can be bad and how that can be bad. And I said, listen, I don't want to know any of it. Let me just experience it when I reach there.
Makes sense, because then it's a mountain molehill into a mountain. It becomes in your head. And that's also physical. That's true for a lot of these physical activities. I'm guessing if you've done ever anything not as strenuous, but even if it's extreme sports or like skydiving or scuba diving, it's just that you just don't have to think. You just have to jump and just go for it.
Absolutely. When you say that, I actually remember, because I have done skydiving. I am one of those people who likes to take risks. So I'm not one of those people who shies away from risks, So I like, my attitude to life is like, generally bring it on, So let's see what happens. Let's get into it. Let's take one step at a time, and let's not overthink about it. So as a personality, that's what I am. I'd like to explore a thing and see. I mean, the worst case is I'll not be able to reach.
Right.
It's okay. Right. I have to prove it to no one on this earth that I have to reach Everest Base Camp. Okay. And it's like, I wanted to really enjoy. My husband had gone, when I had gone last year, the pictures were so beautiful of that area. And I said, listen, I'm going to take my camera and I'm going to soak in the lovely place. Even if I don't reach the end, I'll go 80%, 70%, somewhere I'll go.
Right.
And the good thing about EBC is that you come down the same route in the route you go. So I said, maybe the worst case scenario, I'll say, okay, listen, I'm parking myself here. You people go on the way.
Come back and right.
And another thing which I also did, so I generally, and as a person, also like to, cap my risks. So, which is what I do in my financial being also, and in my personal life also, where, I said that let's take insurance. So we took the best insurance, which also meant that we took a helicopter evacuation insurance, that in any case, if situation happens that I just can't move, or there's a situation which happens that, worst case scenario, I can't do anything, I should be able to come back home. So, from that place, I should be able to evacuate myself and come back to a base position. So I took the best insurance. We spent a lot on insurance. Insurances are expensive, especially we are both 50 plus. So because of that, the insurance was more expensive for us. Despite that, we didn't, kind of compromise on that insurance, and said that, okay, worst case scenario, if things go southwards, then we'll use the insurance. But then, so that's the other thing.
I also loved what you said, right? I don't have to prove it to anybody, and your attitude then towards failure or even success is not about reaching there. It's also that you are there, you're at Everest. I mean, that in itself is just so joyous to even think about, that you've gone and you've visited that place that a lot of people in their lifetimes don't do,
So true. And on that, it kind of brings me to the point that, the journey was so beautiful, Flora. With the, imagine a cobalt blue river running alongside. The beautiful pine trees all over. Those lovely suspension bridges, which are huge, humongous suspension bridges. And it was like my dream to run over those bridges, actually. I mean, I was a little old, so I didn't technically run over them. But I did. And I enjoyed myself just walking on those bridges and just looking left and looking right and soaking that, there are these prayer flags which are there on these suspension bridges, which are kind of, flapping around. And there's this beautiful cobalt blue river running. And I just stood there and I soaked it in. It was so beautiful, so surreal, that, you have to have those moments where you say that, oh, let me just stand and look at what is there. So that was beautiful.
So then talk to us. You were leaving. How did tell us how you started. You all reached, flew back to India, and the
No,
actual
we
journey.
didn't fly to India. From Dubai, we straight away flew to Kathmandu. Okay, so
Okay.
flight, and we were 6 of us. 2 of us, my husband and I. 2 people were from Bangalore. So there was a person who was with my husband last year for the trek. So he's an avid trekker, plus he's like an athlete and everything. So he was there, and he was with his daughter who's 19-year-old.
Wow.
This girl is actually doing her medicine in Manipal. She's just completed her first year, and she came trekking with her dad. And the other 2 people were from the US, where there was again a person who was similar age as us, and his son is 25 years, who was with him, who is working in Google in US. So
Wow.
6 of us were there. Okay, so we all met at Kathmandu, and there was a guide. So this guide was the same guide who had taken my husband and those people last year for the Annapurna circuit. So these people were comfortable with this guide, and so there was this guide who was there with us, and we landed on I think we landed on the 29th morning. And once we landed there, we had to buy some stuff, like we had to buy we took it on rent. Actually, we didn't even buy it. We took these sleeping bags because we needed sub-zero sleeping bags, right? Because the weather conditions were like really cold. We were supposed to go to minus 20 odd degrees Celsius temperature conditions, and so a normal sleeping bag cannot handle that kind of weather conditions. So we had to have specific sleeping bags which were like more heavy duty and all. So we took some of those sleeping bags on hire. We bought some more material. We bought these walking sticks which we carried with us. Had some fun, enjoyed that day. We were in Kathmandu that day, really had a good, sumptuous meal, did some shopping. I bought a beautiful painting. And in fact, I was just thinking about it when I was just before, and I said this painting is something which I should remember as a painting which I got when I went to EBC. I didn't correlate the two, but of course, that's what happened. So yes, and so the next morning we flew down to this place called, and in a very small plane. So this plane is like just about a 15-seater plane. So we took this plane to the flight to this place called Lukla, which is I think it's one of the highest airports, I think, in the world or something like that. It's like
Airstrip, right?
Airstrip in the world, and it's the shortest airstrip.
Shortest airstrip, yeah.
Very short airstrip, so it's beautiful. So we landed at Lukla, and our guide was there with us. And we didn't check into a hotel. We straight away got these porters. So there are these Sherpas. Okay, yes. Sherpas are the local people of Nepal. They're like they're a tribe in Nepal. They're like an ethnic group in Nepal. There are quite a few ethnicities in Nepal. Sherpas are one set of people. And so this guide had a team of Sherpas, about 5 of them, who is a part of their team, and they are the porters. So they carry your luggage. So we were told that each of us could carry a maximum of 15 kgs with us, which was supposed to be carried by the Sherpas. Okay, because they are the ones, we don't carry our stuff all the way to, because we keep going from one place to the other, and we cannot carry that kind of heavy duty bags. So there are these Sherpas who carry our stuff. So each Sherpa would carry 2 sets of 15 kg. So imagine carrying 30 kgs of luggage. And you won't believe, it's so incredible, Flora, that these Sherpas used to always reach ahead of us. So before we used to go to reach our next point, our luggage we used to be in the rooms. With these Sherpas have already delivered it. And imagine, it's like, and just to let you know, I had no clue about this. None of these roads are motorable. Okay, so there is no alternate route for anybody to go on any of these places that we are going to. okay, which may
Right.
come in the future. So it's only through either your mules or your donkeys or your yaks or your horses or people. For carrying stuff from one place to the other and lugging it. There is no other way. Or of course the helicopter.
Right.
Helicopters land there. So there is no motorable road. Even I don't think Nukla has a motorable road. It's just a helicopter, right? So it's just a helicopter, the planes which land there, but there's no motorable road even to Nukla. And from there, once we started walking, so the same day we landed, we started walking. So with the first place we landed to is this place called Phakding. What is it called? Phakding. Very interesting word. Okay, which is like I think it was like a 3-hour trek the first day. So they just make you just get acclimatized to it. We were still very excited and buoyant. We've just about started trekking, and it wasn't so tough. It was mostly downhill because from Lukla to Phakding in altitude terms, it's a little lower.
Okay.
So we did have uphill, downhill, but mostly there was a downhill. So it wasn't too strenuous. And yeah, within 3 hours we reached this place, and then we just had a lot of fun. So what happens is all these places have what in Nepal called tea houses.
Tea houses.
Tea
Okay.
houses are basically like lodges which have certain amount of rooms, and they have a common area. Whoever owns that lodge will kind of give you food, and the food is always very basic and very, very, very interesting. So very basic food. It's called dal bhat. So mostly it's dal and bhat. So it's bhat is rice and dal is dal, and with one or two vegetables. So it's always that. So it's like they'll give you absolutely freshly cooked every time you reach there. They'll give you freshly cooked dal bhat, and there's something they'll always serve you warm water. So the moment you go there, these flasks with, because it's cold, right? As it gets evening time, it gets cold. So they have something, it's called tato pani. Tato is warm. Okay. So they'll say tato pani. So all these, imagine porters who've lugged the luggage, they come before you, they've reached that place, and then they serve as, they become the servers. So they'll all come to you and they'll make you feel so warm and hospitable and nice. And they'll say, okay, we'll give you, warm water. And in the evening, they also switch on a little bit of a chimney where they warm the water. So you can sit around it and kind of be a little warm around that area. Okay, so and then of course people play a lot of songs, and if like our guide was a very good guitarist, so he was a rock band player earlier. Okay, so he was in the rock band, so he actually used to play the guitar most of these places, because Nepalese have, they generally have know how to play the guitar. So most of these tea houses would generally have a guitar, so they used to just pull out a guitar, play songs, and dance around. And we used to have silly things like French fries and popcorn and all that stuff, and then have our dal bhat, enjoy. And then the next morning again, 6 o'clock, we used to get up in the morning and go have breakfast, get ready, wear all our gears, everything. So we'd like wearing a cap, and early morning it's pretty cold, and as we went higher up the altitude, it obviously started getting colder. So but as you start walking, it becomes warm. So you have to wear yourselves, because then you'll start taking off your clothes as it becomes, one after the other, you'll start pulling off your clothes, because one, because you're walking, so you're warm, and two, because obviously the weather also becomes warmer as the day goes. So yeah, so every single day we used to do that, get up at about 6 o'clock. By 7 o'clock, we used to be out for breakfast, and by 7:30 out, start walking. So yeah, so the first stop from there, and of course it goes to the first big place in that area, which is, the area is called the Khumbu region. Okay, that entire region is called the Khumbu region, and the biggest city there is the Namchi Bazaar. which is quite a distance. So if you've reached Namchi Bazaar, you've kind of achieved a substantial amount of coverage, because it's the steps are very, very huge. So when you climb up, each step is like, so obviously the path meanders through various places, but there are places where it's each step is like a 1.5 foot to 2 foot 2 feet high step. So you have to keep going up those steps and all that. And they're not normal steps, right? They're like all these rugged steps where the rocks are here, rocks are there. So it's pretty interesting. But so that was interesting. And we reached Namchi Bazaar. That's a big city, relatively, about 100 all households. A big city means about 100 all establishments in that place.
It's pretty. It's also, was it like your checkpoint that this much is covered now?
So I mean, that's like where you actually begin. So from here, you can actually break into, one is the EBC circuit, then there are many more circuits. You could go to another place for trekking, and so that's like another base place. So once we reach Namchi Bazaar, that's the day you acclimatize yourself. So one day we would we kind of stay there to get used to, because you've reached a particular altitude, and then you kind of slowly get your body used to that thing. So the next day, when there's a acclimatization day, you actually go for a 3-hour trek. Okay, so that acclimatization thing is also, you go up to a particular distance and then you come down. And then you come down, so that your body says, oh, okay, we can go up and then we can come down. So the weather, so the body gets used to it. So from Namchi Bazaar, we went for a 3-hour trek upwards. And then we came down base again to Namchi Bazaar that night. And that's what happened. And then from there, we then, from the next day onwards, we started trekking. Most of the days were like 4 to 6 hours of trek. I mean, actually about 6 hours. For me, it was always longer. So let me give you a little bit of more idea that out of the 6 people who went, 5 people were all nearly 6 feet tall.
Okay.
So my husband's 6 feet. The girl who came was 5'10". Her dad was 6'3". The remaining were just about short of 6 feet. Okay, so I was only one piddly 5 feet 1 inch woman who was like walking there amongst all these 6 feet people. So obviously, one, they're fitter. Most of them are younger. They have big strides. And here I was, this piddly little woman, like always trying to come back. I used to, and so many times we used to see these yaks and horses, they keep crossing because they're carrying a lot of luggage, and also we have to give them way when you're walking up. And always there was this like one horse or one yak who used to be right behind. So they're like 15 of them walking, and then there's a gap, and then there's that one. And I said, listen, that's me. Always, that was, for me, it was like, okay, you can do it, I'm doing it, you can do it, let's go do it. So I was always the last one to reach every day. And so one thing which I can tell you was that I took a personal Sherpa for myself, in the sense that I said that you're going to be with me. So generally the Sherpa, there are 1 or 2 Sherpas who lead the way. In the sense that, because they know the terrain very well, they know the area, they know the place. So we have a guide who's separate. Then there is a Sherpa who sets the pace. Okay, so he's walking ahead and the entire team walks behind him. Okay, because you can't be, because people who try and run across these places are the ones who, generally, who would not complete an EBC trek, because the whole idea is to go slow, go step by step, and go at a pace. So these Sherpas set the pace. So there's one Sherpa who's right ahead, and all these people are following him, because I can't catch up with that with that pace. I'm a little behind most of them, and so I had a Sherpa of my own. So the reason for that was that in case I needed some help in, being, because something is very high or low or whatever, I could just have him, and because everybody else would move at their pace, and you generally don't stop for anybody, because you only meet.
You're also in the pace, and you don't want to
Yeah,
jump.
you don't want to stop. So even my husband and all, I told him, please don't wait for me, just continue
Right.
at your pace. So like every 2 hours we would stop. Like if you started about 7:30, at 9:30 we'll stop for a tea break. So everybody would be anyway there, so I would also reach there. Then we would set off for lunch. Then we would have a lunch break. So we have a tea break, then we have a lunch break, and then we mostly would reach by about 4 o'clock. That was the whole thing, right? Started about 7:38, have a tea break, have a lunch break, and reach the next destination by 4 o'clock. So that was the way
Right.
the day was kind of paced at. So yeah, I mean, beautiful terrains, and after a particular point, it became so stark, because obviously as the altitude goes higher, the vegetation goes away. Right, so there's no greenery. There's only stark mountains, absolute stark mountains, and
Wow.
and of course glaciers, stark mountains, snow. You can see so while we were going, the weather conditions were very good. So I remember my sister always saying, wishing for us when we left. She says, "Let the forces be with you." And you realize that that's such an important part of the whole trek being successful, because the weather conditions play a very, very important part in you being able to successfully complete your trek. And that's why the this whole statement of the forces being with you was like a thing, because every day, touch wood, the weather conditions were good. These Sherpas would used to get up in the morning and say, we used to ask them, how's the weather, and say, oh, perfect. Because the sun is there, the clouds are not there, because they can see from a distance. If it's going to be snowing at a particular point, they can say, oh, I think, we can see that it's going to snow that in that area. So most of the times till we went on the last day, so there are various places you go to, like I said, so let me give you some names. So very interesting names. So from Namchi Bazaar, we went to this monastery, which is at Tengboche. Tengboche, there's a beautiful monastery with a Buddha statue, which was so beautiful, Flora, that I can't begin to tell you how beautiful that was. And so we stopped, obviously, we prayed at the Tengboche monastery, and then we went to this place called Dingboche. And then one night we stayed at Dingboche, then there's another place called Lobuche, where again we stopped one night, and then the last place we stopped at was called Gorakshep. Gorakshep is the place from where it's a 3-hour trek to EBC, to the base camp. Okay, so we landed ourselves at Gorakshep, and that's like the last spot where there is a proper camping place. I mean, a proper house kind of a thing, right? So of course, there's no water or anything in taps. You don't take a bath there, because water itself, there's a person, in fact, that guide was telling us, the nearest place where they can fetch water is some 3 kilometers away. And that one guy is kept in that place for only fetching water the whole day. So he goes, fetches water. So the water that we had to drink was also, not the most perfect one, because it's like still iffy, that place, in terms of the water and everything. So yeah, so that's the place we landed.
That's very interesting, because you don't understand that even certain a pipeline for water that's where you are. It's so
Absolutely.
so high up, and it's so deep into the mountains that someone has to go fetch water. That is, you
So
don't
there was
think about.
no water. Electricity was solar electricity. In fact, beyond, I think, at Dingboche itself, they said that even though there was, the bathrooms were there and there was a flush and everything, they said the flush will not work because the water would be frozen in the pipes. Okay, so so the flush is not working because the pipes are all frozen and the water is frozen. In fact, I remember when we were in this place called at Dingboche, there's a little bit of moisture on the window which gets frozen. Okay, and so we from the inside we could actually scratch with our hand and write -9 degrees centigrade because it was like totally, it was so cold outside. And I remember my husband had dried his towel and it had become like it had become hard because of the snow. Because everything turns into snow, right? It was so cold out there. But yeah, the rooms were nice. In fact, the EBC trek is supposed to be, it's still called the 5-star trek amongst all the treks because it's there's so many people who go to the EBC that the conditions and the kind of lodging conditions are far better as compared to many other places. So the tea houses are pretty decent, except for the last 2 halts where we did not have attached toilets. The rest of the places, at least we got an attached toilet in our room and all. So that's not too bad because in other places you won't even get those kind of things. I think beyond one point we could not. There was no running water, so we had to go to a common place where if you want to take a bath, there's that they use those gas cylinders to pump up the water, and so you get warm water from the gas cylinders and all. So it's a lot of interesting stuff which happens. Loads of interesting stuff. So yeah, so once we reached this last place, Gorakshep, it was a 3-hour trek to EBC and 3-hour trek back. So it's like you can't stay there. You have to go and you have to be there and you have to come. And midway when we were going through on that trek, the weather conditions changed. Okay, and suddenly you could see that the clouds are, kind of coming in, and it started slightly snowing, and we're still on our way to EBC.
This is the Everest Base Camp. All this is a part of the base camp. This is the view from the top. Can you see a lot of people around there? They're all there taking pictures. It's pretty cold. The weather is misty, it's snowing a little.
And so obviously, and once the weather conditions change, it can get pretty hazardous, right? So we reached EBC, and by the time we reached EBC, the weather was like, it was windy and it was a little snowing, and so that was the day the weather actually turned. And we reached EBC, and literally within 5 minutes we were all told, let's go, the weather is turning. So imagine, for something which we had like worked out so much, we were literally there for 5 minutes taking those quick pictures and all.
We are now at the EBC. Can you believe this? Yes. 5364 meters. Everest Base Camp. And here are the people trying to take their pictures. You all say hi to the camera. Hi. Lovely. And this is all our team, all here.
My hands are freezing.
And the hands are freezing. And yes, we've all made it. Yippee! And see, the weather is turning cold. It's snowing here. And are all super excited to be here.
And for me, I would not get a break at all because I was always the last to land.
Right.
So for others who'd landed 10 minutes or 15 minutes or half an hour before me, they've at least got some breathing
Some
space
time
here.
to
For me, it was always, I was like the last to land and the first to leave. In fact, even on the mornings when we used to leave, they used to say, Mika, you start, because they'll all catch up with me. The moment I used to have my breakfast, me and my Sherpa were told, you people, you both set off.
Oh,
You start walking
right.
because we'll anyway catch up with you. So I was always that little turtle who used to continuously keep walking, whereas the hare would catch up, run ahead of me and do all that. But I would be like slow, one step at a time, one step at a time. And so yeah, so even at EBC, we were there for literally practically 5 minutes and then came back. That last stretch from Gorakshep to EBC at a particular point is very, very tricky, because there are these rocks which are there, which are these loose rocks which are there. You have to jump across these rocks and keep moving from one plane. If you slip, you'll actually your leg will really go down because there are these crevices and all, right? So you have to maneuver those rocks a little, and for me that was a little challenging because I for the instability that I had. So what I did was I told my Sherpa, hold my hand.
Right.
And the moment he held my hand, it was like tuck, 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 tuck. We just crossed all of them because then he gave me that stability, right? And so why am I telling it is that it's good if you're a little unsure, have one Sherpa with you, so that because he knows the terrain, he knows the place. All he did was, and his name was Hari. I actually thought him to be God. At that point, he's like a 20-year-old kid, huh? He was with me, a 20-year-old kid. He was with me throughout. And he used to just hold my hand and just take me through these. And I used to, literally jump through all these rocks and just land up. And in fact, I think on my way back, I was probably the first one to come back because all these rocks, he helped me jump through them and kind of come so quickly. So while I was doing the walking, he helped me with that. So that was another interesting thing. So, I mean, the importance of these Sherpas is crazy because they know.
You don't know how to, we don't walk in such places. So you need to learn how to walk properly. Otherwise, also one misstep and, you can hurt yourself so badly.
Very badly. So you're so right, because for me, and for everybody, in fact, one learning which happened out of this was that literally you have to walk with your head down and you have to see each step that you walk. So if you want to look up, then you stop.
Right.
You stop, you look, and then you look down and you start walking again. So you can't do two things. That multitasking doesn't work at all. Unlike what we say that, oh, we can look around and we can walk. No, you can either walk or you can look around.
Look up.
Yes.
Right.
So that was very interesting. So yeah, some crazy. So another thing which happened was that so we went to Gorakshep, we went to EBC, we came back that same day. And then the next day, so on the way back, they make us walk much faster. So something which you cover in about 6 days, which on the way up, on the way down, you cover it in 3 days. So you walk double. Because for most people, walking down is very easy, right? When you come down, it's you quickly kind of gallop downwards. For me, that was where the trek started. Because for me, as a person with a knee problem, walking down is the biggest challenge. Okay, so your knee literally gives up when you walk downwards. And so like for the other people, it was like the trek is nearly over. It's like EBC we've reached and most of it is now downhill. Of course, there were uphill things and all, but a lot of downhill. And so people walked much faster. For me, that's where the challenge began. I always say that where everybody's challenge ended, that's where my challenge really began. And it was like, oh, uphill, I can go uphill, there's no problem. And people were like, uphill, again, there's uphill. And I said, oh, uphill, no problem. So people, for me, the sets of challenges were very different from what most people encounter. I said, oh, downhill. So, I mean, obviously, I took some precautions for my knees on the way back down. But then, fortunately, my knees worked well and supported me all the way down. And I was probably just 15 minutes, always behind the rest of the people, which is not too bad. 15 minutes, that's not bad, right? Like 15, 20 minutes.
Stay somewhere, but I think also the workout that you did before must have really paid off.
But then what happened was, Flora, I actually remember on the way back, we again went to that monastery, that Tengboche, right? And before that, and we'd walked a lot. And because of that weather conditions which changed, there was snow. Okay, so now when you're coming back, the entire region is covered with snow.
Snowed so much. Just see the amount of snow. allowed. We're walking back now today, and it's snowed the whole of last night. It's all snow. The sun is out. Happy to see the sun. Yesterday was not sunny at all.
So on the way, imagine there was no snow, but on the way back, there was snow all over. It was beautiful. It was really surreal to see. We walked on snow. We threw snow at each other. It was like fresh snow. Imagine it, like such light, beautiful snow. So yeah, we enjoyed a lot on that. And then when we were walking back, so I've lost my train.
When you were at the monastery?
Yeah, so the monastery. Yes. So the monastery, again, I was one of the last ones to walk, and my knee was like giving up at that point. For some reason that day my knee was like a little weak, and I was in pain, and there was a lot of downhill which was happening. And everybody else had obviously reached much before, and to my mind they'd reached much before. Okay, so I was under a tremendous amount of stress to say that shit, everybody's waiting for me.
Right.
There's so much of a mental pressure that you are in to say that, oh, everybody's waiting for you. And the moment I reached that place, there was a little bit of a cafe there, and we sat and we were having coffee, and I broke down and I started crying. And I'm like, listen, I can't take the pressure of you people waiting for me. I say, can I please request you that give me some money of my own? I have a Sherpa of my own. Do not wait for me at anything for lunch, breakfast, dinner. If I want to sit down anywhere and then go off to sleep or do whatever, let me have that piece of my time to say that I want to do it my way.
Right.
And literally, then I went to the monastery. I sat in front of the Buddha. And you won't believe, Flora, it was, for me, that was EBC. That's where that whole thing poured out. I went and sat in front of Buddha, and I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried. It's like for 15 minutes, the tears just welled from my eyes, and it was so therapeutic. And there was such a sense of calm which happened, because you went inside that monastery, and there was Buddha, which was like stone, calm, beautiful, unfazed. And you came out, and there's the Everest. You can see the Everest.
Oh my.
Again, unfazed, calm, in that same thing. I don't care about the world. Like, let people come to me. I am who I am. And then I could see that parallel between the Buddha and the Everest. And it broke me down. And it gave me some kind of crazy energy, which I can't even begin to tell you. It was like so beautiful. And it just charged me. It just charged me in a very, very different way. I probably didn't even feel the magnitude of the EBC at EBC. But I felt the magnitude of that whole experience when I went to that monastery on my way back. And from there, then, of course, I told everybody, you people, please carry on, and I'll meet you at that place where we're going to be, going for the night. Don't wait for me for tea or for any more lunches or anything. And I got my money, and I had my Sherpa, and then I was like so chilled, because then wherever I found, okay, let's have an apple, let's sit down here. So I used to sit, and everywhere we used to get beautiful ginger tea. Okay, so there's ginger, lemon, and honey tea, which was available everywhere. There's a lot of ginger, beautifully tasty tea. So everywhere we used to, and there are these nice villages in the middle where people are serving all that kind of stuff. So we used to just go, fresh apples, fresh apple pies. Okay, lots of places they were making fresh apple pies. So eating an apple pie, having apples, carrots, cucumbers, fresh cucumbers. So I just sat. I used to sit in places, enjoy myself, take a picture. Tell my Sherpa, you want to take my picture? He used to say, okay, ma'am, you have to take my picture. I'll take your picture. So both of us used to take each other's pictures. And yeah, so it was nice. And lo behold, slowly and steadily, we were back. And
Wow.
super awesome. It was beautiful. It was surreal.
Especially the moment that you had at the monastery, I think.
For me, for everybody else, probably it was EBC. For me, it was that monastery. That monastery was, and you won't believe, we went to the monastery on the way back when we were coming back at that time. Obviously, everybody else had already been to the monastery, so I went to the monastery alone. And it was, when I went up, it was closed, and I was like, "Oh, it's closed." And there was a number written there that call up this number if you want the monastery to be open. So I called up that number, and a monk came. And then he opened the monastery for me. I went in, I cried. And when I came out, he gave me this.
Wow.
He put this around my neck. And that's something which, I haven't taken it out ever since. Because this is something which I suddenly felt really, as if God was himself kind of giving it to you. I had that emotion when he kind of, because, I mean, it's not that he was giving it to everybody, right? But he just said, just wait. And he told me, wait for a minute. And he went running. And then he went and got this. And he said, this is for you. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. So, yeah, some lovely incidents which happened.
That's
and then, of
how
course,
did you deal with the cold?
You know what? Not once. Maybe it was my mom's cap. So my mom knits lovely caps. Okay. So both my husband and I had taken one of those caps, and I was wearing that itself. But believe me, Flora, I was shocked to my wits that not one day I got anything close to a migraine or any headache. I don't know. I am shocked to my wits to say, this is the same Meeta who has never been to a hill station and not spoiled everybody's holiday. Not spoiled everybody's holiday, because every time it's like, listen, I can't go out. I have a massive headache, and I would tie that thing around my head, a scarf, and be on the bed. And the same Meeta was in minus 20 degrees, walking around with zero feelings of any kind of headache or anything. I have no idea.
Thankfully, I mean, otherwise you can't enjoy whatever you're doing if you have a headache.
So one is the headache, and two is also because the air is very, I mean, obviously oxygen conditions. So you obviously have to start eating some medicine. There's a medicine called Diamox, which they start giving you at a particular altitude. So that what it does is it thins your blood so that you can absorb more oxygen. So you start having that medicine. And in fact, that girl that I was telling you, that 19-year-old girl who came with us, midway when we were walking one of the days, she started crying and she broke down because she had a terrible headache, because of obviously the low oxygen conditions. And she was like, I can't move from here. And everybody felt, you just stop at that moment, because you can see that she's in a very bad situation. Anyway, so we gave her some Crocin, sat down with her for some time. She felt a little better. But then thankfully thereafter things moved well for her. But and this guy was always telling us that if you're feeling dizzy, if you're feeling that your loss of appetite or any of those things, then do tell us, because those are things which are very, very common when the oxygen conditions become less. And beyond a particular altitude, oxygen does become very, very, I mean, touch wood, all of us were in good condition and we didn't feel any breathlessness or any headiness in our heads to say that, oh, we're feeling, lightheaded or any of those kind of things. But yeah, it went off pretty well. So,
amazing.
Yes. So that, like we said, let the forces be with you. There's so many things which can go wrong, right? There's so many things which can go wrong when you're there. One little slip here can, kind of derail you. One little headache can derail you. One little stomach bug can derail you. There's so many things. The other thing which this guy also always pushed us is keep having water. Because it's cold, you won't feel like having water. But every half an hour, take a sip or two of water, because you'll get dehydrated. And because of that, there are so many implications. So another thing with like taking one step at a time, staying hydrated all the time, even if you don't feel thirsty, you're like continuously having water. So we used to carry two water flasks. One was like a flask which had warm water, and one flask which we had which was a little it's one of those very interesting flasks. It's not a flask, it's a water bag. It's a water bag which is made of plastic kind of a thing. So it's very light. So it's like it's like a bladder kind of a thing. So you just pour water into it, and you put it in your bag, and the pipe comes here, so you keep sipping it. So you just, all you have to do is just get it close to your mouth and open it, and you sip it. So you don't have to stop and all. So we used to have that and keep having sipping water. So yeah, you learn a lot of things. Trekking has a set of rules that you need to follow. So
Right.
come to know about whether it's the rhythm of motion, the pace that at which you have to walk, the hydration that you have to have, the importance of walking together and not outpacing yourself. So initially, in fact, I was talking to that Sherpa once, and I was asking him, not the one who was. So the Sherpa that I had, that 20-year-old was the kid of the main Sherpa who was leading us. Okay, he was the son of that main Sherpa leader. So that I was talking to that main Sherpa. I said, so what is the, and everybody was like pretty shocked with me, because I was like everybody's question mark that whether rest were all young. Like my husband was like in a situation where he was in a good, he was the eldest. He was 56, so he was the eldest. I was 54. The other guy was also 56. So there were three of us in the 50s. The one guy in the 40s, and then one was 25 and one was 19. That was the range of people we had from 19 to 56. My husband's been, touch wood, his health condition has been good. So he was absolutely fine. People were like pleasantly surprised with me, because I was always a cause of question mark to people, that will she manage or not, But
Right.
they were like, you are so mentally strong, Meeta, that, at one point, they were like, my husband was like, oh, should we get you a helicopter back? Now it's only downhill. Why do you all anyway done EBC? The helicopter will come, we'll meet you there, just take I said, no, I'm going to walk it down. I don't care how. When I've come up, I will walk down. And so my guide was the only one. He was like, yeah, she'll do it. I said, yeah, I know I'll do it. He doesn't have to tell me she'll do it, or nobody else needs to tell me, because I know I will do it. There is no option in my mind that I won't do it. So it was like, as simple as that, jo karna hai, so karna hai. There is no that, oh, can I? There was never a can I. So I never had a can I moment in my head to say that, oh, I was like, yeah, one step. So whenever I used to get up in the morning, I said, how many hours today? So the guide used to 6 hours. I said, okay, for me, 7 hours. Fair enough. For everybody, 6 hours, for me, 7 hours. So I used to put it in my head that today I need to walk 7 hours. End of story. One step, one step. And then not look at the watch. End of story. When 7 hours were complete, I used to be there.
Amazing.
So it's not difficult. What I can say is that it requires a lot of it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. One thing, the Everest Base Camp trek is not an easy trek, but it is not difficult.
Right.
All you need is 2-3 things. You need to have that mindset that you have to do it. You have to cut off the noise, because there will be many noises which will say that you can't, oh, this is so difficult, oh, and if you let those noises come into your head, then they can overpower you. So the biggest game is, and my sister again always uses the word mind over matter. Right. And it was only that mind over matter which gets you to say, because you see so many young people who are like, oh, say, I can't, oh, I'm tired, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that. And like, it's like, I didn't feel any of those I'm tired or any of those thoughts never crossed my mind. In fact, you see even those 19-year-old or the 25-year-old, they were literally tired. Going uphill it wasn't an easy task, I mean, it was pretty daunting for those young people too. So, I mean, for me, in my mind, it was never a task to go uphill. So it was never a task. So I didn't even think that,
Yes, of
uphill
course.
was a task.
Your challenge was coming
So
downhill.
for me, downhill is a tension, but uphill wasn't. So for something which was so difficult for everybody was like, uphills are nice. Let's go. That's fine. So it was really funny and fun. Yeah.
So now coming back.
What? So I think I'm in a very different zone, Flora, once I've come back. It's made me think that goal is important. Fine, goal is directional. But it's your journey. It's a one step at a time. I only believe in that one step. And I said, I have to enjoy that one step. If I enjoy the next step that I'm taking, the rest will follow. So if EBC can happen one step at a time, everything can happen one step at a time. So I think I've always been the person who's, believed in the let go principle, but I'm not getting attached to anything now. Nor am I getting attached to Moola in that sense, or its consequences of, why are people not coming, or why? I have something which I have to offer. It's like the mountain is standing there, right? It's not waiting or beckoning anybody to come. If somebody comes, good for them.
Right.
If they don't, the mountain is there. Right? So
So Meeta, now that you're back and you've done something that, well, you didn't even think that you could do or had it in mind, you went there and you've had a very cathartic experience, is what I'm saying, then I think your mindset is something that we all should, keep, it's inspiring for all of us. Like just one step at a time and do it for yourself and nothing else. It doesn't matter how slow or fast you are going, as long as you're doing it for you. And what would you like to tell all of us about doing something which is challenging in any aspect in your life?
So I think, Flora, you've said it exactly, what I really believe in. Taking that one step at a time, doing it for yourself, not proving it to anybody, but to yourself, just doing it because you want to do it. So whatever matters to you, and it's not about the destination ever. It's okay if you don't reach. I think the idea is about trying. The idea is about not letting fear, overcome you and make you think that, I can't do it.
Right.
Leave that aside. Don't have that thought and say that, what do I want? So I think sometimes it's good to take a leap of faith and let the forces then, determine where you are. So don't be stupid. I never tell people that be stupid. I did my training. I did take my gears, saw that the stuff was planned properly, but I didn't overthink. And I think that's what I feel that a lot of people land up doing this. They kind of land up overthinking about things, and they manifest so many, negatives into their brain that they don't even begin to make things happen. So I think what I would tell people is dream whatever you want to dream, and whatever you choose that thing and just start working towards it. Don't think that whether you'll reach it, not reach it, what will happen, what good will come out of it. No, don't think any of that. Just take that little one step and then next step. And even if you reach, who are you competing against? Who's the first, who's the last? It doesn't matter. Just enjoy your journey. And so even whether it's, I mean, for me, what will I do after this? It's a newfound passion for me. So I think it's given me the confidence that the next time I can dream, bolder. So maybe I'll do a Kilimanjaro, next time, for go and do a trek on the Kilimanjaro, or at least start taking small treks, So that this was my first trek, happened to be a big one. But
huge one.
Right. But what it's opened up for me is that I am the only person limiting myself. I had built it into my head that, my knees are weak. This has happened. Of course, I won't say Since the time I've come back, my knees are sore a little. Okay, I am working on it to see that they become okay. So, but it's okay. I achieved something which is, again, to prove nothing to anybody, but to myself, to say that I can. And so let me not stop by saying that, oh, I have this, because we'll all have a lot of negatives in our head. And physically also, we might have a lot of negatives. But it's
Right.
okay. Once you think of the positives and once you still believe in it that you can, I just feel you can. It's all in
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
yeah, take those small things, whatever matters to you, and just start doing it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Meeta. It's very inspiring. And also to hear a first-hand experience of such a trek, right? Amazing. Thank you for sharing.
I would love for you to also do it sometime. Do the EBC. It's simple, and it'll open many doors for trekking and many such activities. It's super fun. One such trek may probably change your life.
Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this, Flora.
Thank you so much for listening in. And if you liked what you heard today, then please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Moola channel. Thank you once again and have a good day. Bye.